Okay.
Wow. Ooh, focus.
Hi. Are we in focus, Chris?
We are in focus.
Great. I'm Matt.
And I'm Chris, and it's another Monkey Monday.
Well done.
That's how you say it.
We always nail that.
Yeah.
So the reason we held that slate up there at the start is because we want to talk about video production today, a beginner's guide, if you will.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to get right. It's just, follow these simple steps and you'll end up with an excellent video.
Yeah, and the reason we're doing this is a friend of mine asked us about a music video that we'd put together and how we approach a project like that rather than just having a band playing in a warehouse or something like that. But this kind of stuff applies if you're maybe doing something that tells more of a story, like an advert or some sort of live action, something like that, something that's a bit more storytelling.
Yeah, and we have to say that the video that we will refer to, you'll see Matt in another guise. You didn't actually appear, did you? Oh, you appeared.
I do really briefly, but we won't go into that. We're
He's
not
the
here
lead
to
singer.
do that, we're here to do this.
All right. Okay.
So we're going to look at pre-production, we're going to look at the shoot day, and we're probably going to cover post-production in another vlog, so we can talk about the editing. So the first thing to do is to have an idea, have a story to tell.
Yeah, and the story that Matt decided to tell was that of a poltergeist.
Ghost, yes, it was a poltergeist, and there was a woman in a house, and the poltergeist is bothering her. She's not frightened by it, but at the end, somehow she dies, and then she joins him, and she can see him finally, and it's a great, it's a blockbuster.
It is. And so you thought of an entire story and then broke that down into sections and little vignettes that you could shoot then.
Yes, that's right. And I guess there's a question of how you come up with that idea. So a good way to do it is to do a load of research first. So try and get an idea of other kind of media that is similar that you want to do. Get drunk in a bar, that kind of works pretty well. Chat with your friends. And once you get that idea, yeah, exactly, break it down, put it in as a synopsis. So the first thing I did was wrote a paragraph or two about what I wanted to do and ran that by Chris.
Yep, and then you move on to a storyboard where you try and set out each shot that you want to cover, and that means you can decide how long each shot's going to be, and you can make sure you've got enough coverage for your entire song.
So we've drawn that here. I don't know how well you can see it, but we're going to give it a little template here. But the kind of thing that we have on there is we'd have a little slate number here, so we know which shot it is.
Yep.
A little picture of what the actual thing is, so a sketch doesn't have to be amazing.
Yeah, it can be really bad, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I like in the top right hand corner to put a little direction of what sort of shot it should be. Should it be a close-up, mid shot,
wide shot?
Yeah, there's loads of different initials you can use to relate to them. We put the time codes in, so whereabouts does this sit in the flow of the whole thing, and how long should that cover last? And that's a really handy one when we're working together, Chris, because I can say this particular shot needs to last 5 seconds, and we know how long to cover that shot.
And then I will say, that didn't work, let's do it again.
Yes, exactly. Basically. So, and then there's some other bits you can put in there, audio notes, and importantly, props. So when you draw this out, you can have an idea in your head about what props you're going to need as well. It's a good starting point.
Yes, so we'll have multiple pages of storyboard, and do we have a blank storyboard link thing down there?
There might be one, I hope so. Let's see if our team get one together.
Yeah.
Once you've got your storyboard done, it's an impossible shoot if you just take a storyboard to a shoot, because your storyboard is in sequence. It tells the story. But what you want to be able to do then is, because you might cut from one location to another, is to break all those shots down and put them in a shoot list. So for Poltergeist, we had a couple of locations and we had several rooms. So we made sure that when we were shooting scenes in the kitchen, that we put all of those kitchen shots together so that we could do all of those in one sort of 1 hour, 2 hour session. So we're shooting out of sequence.
Yeah, it may seem counterintuitive. You may want to start at the beginning of your music video or whatever it is and go towards the end, but no, that's definitely the great way to go.
Yeah, and that's where the slate number is important, because you shoot out of order, you capture out of order, and then you've got the slate number at the start, and then that helps you put it back into order. Once you've got here, you've pretty much got most of what you need to then start shopping.
Yeah.
So you want to get your prop list sorted out from all of the storyboard. You want to start looking at the logistics, booking in the crew, finding shoot locations. So there's a load of pre-production to do once you get to this point. My best bit of advice that we've learned is assume everything is going to take about 2 to 2.5 times longer than you think it will take, because video production can be time consuming. You have to set the lights up, you have to get the shot right, and you need to give yourself time to do it, otherwise it's frantic.
Yeah, if you're setting up in a new location, you're going to have, I would say, I would normally allow maybe quarter of an hour, half an hour for lighting, seeing where your shot is at least, and then you might only be covering 5 or 10 seconds, but you're going to need, you might end up using half an hour to do something that is only 5 seconds. So, but then you might realize you haven't got enough time, and then you've got time to rejig what you actually want to do.
And that brings us really nicely to the actual shoot day itself. So you should be able to you should have everything there, all of your props, biscuits, don't forget the biscuits. And the important thing is to be flexible. So if the shot isn't working, you know, make sure that you accommodate that in some way. Some shots we'd scripted for Poltergeist, they didn't quite work, but luckily we had a spare croissant or two that we could float around and do something with. So you don't have to be too rigid, just to stick to the story. And in respect to that, shoot plenty of B-roll as well.
Yeah, you just want some extra footage that will be able to bulk things out, because naturally as you choose shots, they start to contract. So you might just want some interstitial kind of random shots to put in there. And it's really useful to have, well, it's better to have more than less, because you're leaving a location and you don't want to go back and spend a second whole day doing something.
Exactly, yeah. Stick to the schedule as much as you can. So over here somewhere, you've got your timings for the day. Try and stick to that, but importantly, make sure you've scheduled in some breaks and some catering. Don't forget the catering. You'll have very angry cameramen.
You will. And if you work too hard, you're just going to get a headache, and it's just going to feel really difficult. You can work long hours, but you've just got to schedule in those breaks.
Yeah, absolutely. When we shoot, we're very careful to check each shot as we go. So once your shot is set up, the first things to look for are any weird reflections. Make sure you're not reflected in something. Make sure the crew around you aren't in shot. Make sure things like bags or cables aren't in shot and the shot is clean and tidy. Clocks, Chris.
Yeah, clocks with an exclamation mark. That's a good one. Just, you can have a clock in shot, and if it takes quite a long time to do the shot, then that clock is just going to be ticking round, and you've got massive continuity problems.
Exactly. So imagine if you are shooting everything in the kitchen, for instance, and there's a clock in the kitchen, and you shoot all of those scenes within an hour, but you've shot them out of sequence, then the clock might be at half past at the start of the video and 12 o'clock towards the end of the video. So it can really screw your continuity. I'd recommend remove all clocks. Makes life a lot easier.
Wow.
Lighting.
Don't use too many lights. If you can get away with one or even no light, then that's the best thing to do. See where the sun's going to be at a certain point. Use that to your benefit. You just use a reflector if you can. Yeah. Just try and keep things light and nimble, I would. Yeah. Especially if you've got lots of different scenes and different places to shoot.
Yeah, control the light as much as you can. Shooting indoor or outdoor, be aware of that sun's movement, because you know, in the afternoon it may be burning through a window that you hadn't seen during the morning, and it can make a shot very difficult. So we recommend using some slates, which is what we used at the start, to help the edit. So when you capture, these slates will have a little number on that corresponds to this, and you should be able to drop them seamlessly into the edit, just as we did for Poltergeist, with no problems whatsoever. And it makes that post-production, that edit process, so much easier.
Yeah, and when we shot Poltergeist, we did a few random edits on the fly just to see if something was going to work, because we did a scene in a rural cottage, and then the next scene was down some caves in Nottingham, and we needed to check that those things actually worked, rather than getting into an edit later on and going, well, this is just rubbish.
That's a really good point. Not even on the board there, but a bit of extra advice is to be aware of that edit as you're shooting. So when you're checking these shots, you know, think about what they're moving into for the next shot and make sure that's going to work. Yeah. If you can edit on the fly during lunch, that's no bad thing.
Yeah, it's good.
That's where we are. So we We should disappear in a ghostly fashion, shouldn't we?
Bye.